and gentlemen, today is October 6th, 2012, and this is the KNKL Show, episode 53. I am your host, KIenan Lafferty. Today we are going to be doing a tutorial on drawing forearms. Yes, that's right. If you recall, a few episodes ago, actually, rather, maybe 20 episodes ago, we were doing our first preliminary introductions and studies on anatomy. And you might recall me saying something about I could do an entire daily on forearms alone. And ladies and gentlemen, today is that day. But before we get into that, we are going to be taking a stroll through the Twitter. So for those of you who are not following me, please follow, because I will not post spam links when I'm at the gas station getting corn nuts and Gatorade and being eyeballed by strange figures in the darkness like I was last night. But I will post links when I am uploading and filming new episodes. Moving on to the lovely Facebook, aka Lovely Lane. Thank you guys so much for submitting your plethora of amazing works. I am so happy to see the sexiness that is on this page every time I come on here every week. So thank you guys once again. I'm happy that I'm able to hopefully inspire you and help lead you in your artistic visions and journeys. So with all that out of the way, we are going to be moving into the tutorial. So let us get started, because we got a lot to cover today. In fact, I would like to deem this a little bit more of a joint study session, because I'm not the best at rendering or drawing forearms myself. So we're actually probably going to be learning together today. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the magic of the internet. Alright, so without further ado, I will just jump right into this, start kind of talking about what I do know about forearms, the generalities of what I usually do to go about drawing them, and then we'll kind of get into the nitty-gritty. So the first thing that we're going to do is let's sketch out basically what the arm looks like, and because if we're going to draw the forearm, we got to know how it attaches to the rest of the arm. So let's just kind of draw in this circle shape here to represent our shoulder, right? Let's move it over a little bit to the side there. Let's say this is our arm coming down here. Here's the bicep here. In a really cool way, I've been taking some awesome classes with Alvin Lee. And for those of you who don't know who Alvin Lee is, he's an amazing comic book artist. And he came up with this sort of principle of dividing the shoulder muscles up into 3 little egg shapes. And so I've started doing that because I really like it, and it makes sense. It kind of helps measure everything out. So I go ahead and I do that too. Lighten this up a tiny bit. And then a really cool thing is to remember how to draw the forearm. Is it kind of like, it's like 3 shapes here, right? Like up in here. And then it comes down to 3 shapes into the bicep. So it's like this shape here, and then the back shape actually comes up to the tricep. Now we get into the forearm. So let's sketch out basically just kind of what the forearm looks like, right? We know that it kind of has this general shape. But then we start to run into some problems, aka this shoulder is too small. But that's okay, because we're not focusing on shoulders today. We are focusing on forearms. So let's go ahead and actually, why is this erasing so harshly? Oh, there we go. We're not focusing on shoulders and biceps today. We are focusing solely on forearms. So we know we got the bicep here, tricep back here, right? Now the first muscle that you're going to draw for the forearm, and this is usually where I call it good, is I'll just draw what they call the Carpi muscle. And that's probably the most noticeable one here. I don't know if you can see this here, like when I push it up like that, you can see this muscle kind of goes up like that. And the way that kind of connects, or the way that I've learned to draw it, is it kind of like branches out from between the bicep and the tricep. So it kind of comes out like this, and it goes up, and then down, right? And then you almost want to think of this here. Let me get 2 colors, actually. I think this will be really nice. This will be easy to show. It's almost like I planned this. Jeez. Okay. So notice how the bicep kind of comes down like this and sort of fits into the slot here, almost like a little Lego piece, right? So it's like it goes into this open slot right here, right, of the muscle. And then the carpi kind of comes out from within these two muscles, right, and then goes down the forearm. It goes up like that. There's a muscle that comes around here, and we'll go to the other side. We're going to draw this forearm from a lot of different angles today because we want to figure out exactly not only the carpi, but all the little niblets that surround it and make up what we call the forearm. So we got this going on, right? Then beneath the carpi, we have these things called the flexors, right? So it's like basically all these little extra muscles that come down like this, right? AKA the niblets. And you go back to your elbow like this, and then it goes up to your big old tricep that you've been working out all day to impress the chicks at school. And then, yeah, goes like that. So that's an easy way to just basically introduce the generalities of all the little muscles that go into the forearm. And now we're going to break them down piece by piece and draw them from different angles so you can tell kind of a general idea of how you want to structure them when you are drawing them on your character. So let's set that to the side and let's move on to our next little thing here. So the next thing I want to talk about is let's draw it from the other side, and let me demonstrate a principle of basically how your elbow connects to this wrist. Like you'll notice there's a little bump on your wrist right here. That's actually the end of the bone that goes to your elbow there. So we'll demonstrate that right here, like this. So let's say you've got your shoulder here. This is going to be a little bit more foreshortened picture, or foreshortened diagram. So you've got your shoulder here, right? And you got your little tricep here. And it comes down to your shoulder. Basically, the way that I like to start this off is I just kind of think of it as a simple shape, right? So here's the tricep here, here's the shoulder. And your forearm is going to be coming out like this. And attaching to your hand, right? So make this into a fist so you can tell what's going on here. It's not the best fist, but you guys get the idea. So now it is time to demonstrate the principle. And that is, remember, on the outside of your hand, you'll see that bone right there. We're going to connect this bone right here to the elbow right here, right? It's going to go straight up and over to there, right? And once you've laid out that bone in the arm, actually putting the muscle on top of it is very, very easy. So you want to think back here. Remember when we were talking about how the carpi, this giant muscle right here, all right, carpi, like that. Remember how we were talking about the carpi emerges from the tricep and the bicep, right? So here's the tricep, right in this area. In fact, let me label it. You got tricep here, right? Tricep in this area. Bicep in this area. So we know that the carpi is going to emerge from right there. And because it's foreshortened, it's going to just kind of show up like that. And also the other thing about the carpi is think about how it wraps around. It's almost like a pole here. Like imagine a pole. And then like a candy cane, you know? Except the carpi just kind of wraps around the pole like this. And it looks a little bit more like a leech. Yeah, like a cute little leech stuck onto a candy cane. That's the way I'm gonna put this. There you go. That's basically the principle I'm teaching here. Let's draw that in. Good. Don't forget those details. Do not forget these details. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So you got your little leech right here. It's basically wrapping around the pole. And basically what's happening is this is your carpi muscle, right? And the way that it works is it attaches kind of halfway down to your wrist. Like imagine, this is going to look really funny, but imagine this end right here was your hand, right? Let's draw in a hand really quick here. Quick little hand. Just to demonstrate purpose. So see, we got our hand at the end of this candy cane, right? The carpi is wrapping around this here, going down and connecting to all the little tendons and stuff that are here. And then the other muscle comes around like this. It's a little bit lower. Like see how the carpi's up here? This muscle is going to start down here, right? And kind of come down like that. And I don't know exactly what this muscle is called, but it's basically just kind of like a reverse carpi. This is on the inside. And then you'll notice the bone on my arm is very, very protruded and exaggerated, but this is the other thing that basically protrudes from the other side of that muscle. And then that'll start to go up to the rest of your arm. That connects to your tricep and your bicep, all that other stuff. Okay? And then you got all your flexors in there. So that looks really interesting. Wow, we have a forearm with a candy cane coming out. I am genius. I should teach classes about this because, you know, it seems like things are more fun when you just incorporate candy. In fact, I'm going to try to incorporate as much candy references into this show as possible. So the next thing you're going to do is not only does the carpi wrap around, but also the flexors do, right? Especially when you are turning your hand like this, right? It's going to rotate more and more. So, but the basic idea is when it's straight out like this bone is always going to connect to this bone. So always keep that in mind. So let's draw in the other flexors that come down here. All right, like this. It's looking pretty good. And then once it gets to your wrist, you have all these tendons. It almost looks like a wristband, one of those trendy wristbands. It says boobies on them. I don't know if people still wear those, but or I love boobies. Blue-footed boobies, that is, for the younger viewers. Yeah. I love blue-footed boobies. They're so cute. They're so precious. In fact, I want one for a pet. I really would like one. Yes. Cool. And then on the other side, basically remember how we were talking about the bone basically separates the two sections of muscle, right? From what I've learned so far. So you got this muscle down here, this muscle down here, and imagine the candy cane is within this arm here. Then you got the bone. Remember, this bone of your shoulder will always come up and connect to this bone. Then you have the carpi, which emerges from the bicep and tricep, which are right there. And the flexors kind of come out from underneath it, follow up, kind of wrap around the arm, and then they meet the tendons, which are in the hand. Next! Whoops. Moving on. See if we can incorporate some gumdrops into this. I'm feeling gumdrops, yeah? You guys? Feeling gumdrops. Next! Okay, so now that we've drawn it from the outside, let's draw it from the inside because this is another very, very challenging, in fact, one of the most challenging ways to draw the arm for me. So, let us begin. So let's start off with, say, we got the guy's kind of chest here, right? The man's chest here, yeah? He's got these big old shoulders coming down. He's going to have abnormally long and stretchy arms because we are going to be demonstrating exactly what happens. And so this is just to give you a point of reference as to where this arm would be existing. So you've got the shoulders here, bicep here, right? Yes. And then remember how we talked about how the bicep fits into the opening in the muscles there. The muscles! So the carpi is basically going to go here, right? Let's draw this in like this. The tricep is going to be coming from back here, right? And his hand is going to be basically palm out. His arm is so huge. That's funny. Okay. So check this out. Got this bone that goes up here, and that is actually his elbow. It's part of your elbow. That's this part here, and then the other part is right here. Carpi, this is our carpi right here. Remember, it wraps around, goes down like that. So that's basically a good way to remember. It seems like, I think one of the hardest things to remember about the arm from this angle is actually just how the forearm connects to it in such a way that it emerges from between the bicep and the tricep. I think that's always just like a good thing to remember. In fact, if you guys remember when I was talking about how to draw a forearm in perspective or an arm in perspective, I said basically think of it this way. The bicep and tricep are this shape, right? And then the forearm is this shape. So they kind of fit together, right? And here, let me draw another diagram of that. It's almost like you have a Pac-Man, right? A 3D Pac-Man. This is going to be awesome, by the way. This is going to be an excellent drawing. Think of it like this, right? You have 3D Pac-Man going downward, like that. And then what fits into his mouth is basically the other muscles that come out, right? Yeah, can you see that? There's the carpi right there, comes down through the candy cane, and then this muscle comes up right here. There's like this little connector piece right here. Not sure what that is exactly, but I think it might be just the tendon that connects your bone to the muscle or whatever. I'm not sure, but draw it in because that's a good way just to remember, and it'll allow for the flexion and the bending of that arm. And we'll draw another really good example of showing this mystery muscle, whatever it is. If anybody knows this muscle, by the way, please post a comment as to what it is. This little connection piece in here that goes between the bicep and the tricep. And that will make me look less dumb. That's always a good thing. Alright, so that is a good way to remember how basically the bicep and the tricep fit into the forearm. Oh, one more time, let me demonstrate this. So you can see, look, this oval right here, this Pac-Man, the oval that this Pac-Man represents is like this, right? Here, let me draw in some quick little ellipses. Right, so it goes like that, right? And then the other oval goes like this and fits into it. And this is wider, like that. I hope that makes sense. Not the best diagram. I think the Pac-Man was better. Yes, the Pac-Man was better. I didn't even need to draw that. Moving on. Now we'll draw that same angle, the inside of the bicep and tricep connecting to the forearm, from an angle where it is flexed. Move those guys over there. fact, this might be just a little bit more like arms in general, but mostly it's forearms because that's the most confusing one for me. But yeah, we'll just show everything. Why not? We'll just show how it connects and everything because that's really important. Okay, so we got another guy here, right? Another guy. Make him muscly, man. And a cool way to remember how the shoulder connects to the pecs is, remember how I talked about dividing it into 3 eggs? Here's egg 1, here's egg 2. Look, if you look back here, divided into 3 shapes like this. There's 1, 2, 3. From this angle, you're seeing 1 and 2 right there, right? And then 3 is on the other side going to the back. But if you were to continue basically pulling these down and into the chest area, you see how that creates like a flow, right? And it all connects right in here. And it goes into your bicep, like that. See, that's pretty easy to remember. And this little thing comes down in here. This little thing comes down in here. Hooks up to that. Now let's draw the bicep or tricep. Tricep like that. Going up like that. Again, gigantic, disproportionate arms to the head. I'll fix that really quick. Give him a bit bigger of a head. There we go. Cool. I like it. I like it. So let's talk a little bit more about that little muscle that comes out and connects to the forearm and the role it plays from this angle, right? So let's quickly just draw in our forearm, just the basic idea of what we want to accomplish, and then we'll go in and we'll sketch in all those extra little nibblies. All the little nibblies. Cool. That's good. I like that. So the mystery muscle is going to be coming right from between. Here's our bicep here. Oh, let me highlight this. Here's our bicep here. We know this, right? Bicep here. Triceps back here. Right, we're going up like this. And then we introduce the mystery muscle. Mystery muscle comes from within, between. Again, you can still see a little bit of that Pac-Man in there, right? See from the red lines? Like that, and that's connecting to the forearm. And then out of the Pac-Man's mouth comes the mystery muscle, and that connects right up into the arm, right? So from this muscle right here, we're going to show basically that inner carpi, I guess you want to call it that, as well as this bone that comes out right here, and that one. So basically we're drawing this bone and that bone, and these are basically the ones that connect all the way up to the back of your wrist, which is going to be on the inside looking towards you this time. So we know that from the elbow straight up to here is going to be this line that divides, right? That's going to be the line that divides the muscles. So let's go ahead and draw those in really quickly. So we got muscles there, and then basically from this angle we probably are not going to see the carpi because the carpi is on the other side, but we will see the extra flexors that are coming from around the bone. That'll cause to make this shape as opposed to just going straight to the arm, you know. But depending on how big, I mean, depending on how what's the word, how strong these muscles are, it will affect how they appear here. Man, it is really hard talking about muscles, remembering all the names. Flexors, carpis, Mystery muscles. Pac-Mans. So yeah, just think about that. How these connect here. This connects here. This muscle is probably connected to this bone. I'm not sure. I'm not a surgeon. I can't tell you that. I probably look dumb for saying that. But this is just kind of general ways that I remember how the muscles work. And I hope this is helping. I hope this is helping you to understand as well. Moving on. We've been going for 25 minutes. It is a beautiful Saturday. By the way, I don't know if you guys noticed behind me, but I am in my new place. And I cannot tell you how beautiful this place is. There's actual windows. There are windows I can see outside. I don't have to open up the garage door. I have beautiful natural lighting coming in, lighting my face. And it is absolutely nice. I actually have air conditioning in here too. It's very nice. Although, not supposed to be using it too much, otherwise I get in trouble. But that is our little secret. Moving on. Let's see here. Let me do one more. Well, let me do a couple more. Just basically showing the back end of the arm. Because we've done the front, and we've done the side, we've done this weird angle. Now it is time to do the back. So let's go ahead and do that. A good way that I've learned to remember how the triceps go with the elbow is to simply, you just draw like a line up. Like here, let me. It's so hard to just like start sketching something and then you guys know what I'm doing. Sorry. I know what I'm drawing because I'm the one drawing it, but I should probably draw in a silhouette very quickly. So here is our shoulder here. This is going to be egg 3, right? Egg 2. Look back here, remember? Egg 3 is the one in the back because we're drawing from the back. So let's just draw in the tricep. A good way to remember how the tricep interacts with the bone, or basically the opening of the tendons that happen there, is they sort of like fit around it, right? It's divided into 2, right? But then they kind of curl around this bone here, right? Yeah, just like that. So this is actually the bone here. That's your elbow, right? It goes up, and then it connects to your tricep, which goes up like that. Okay. So the first thing we want to talk about is, remember, the carpi is going to emerge from the tricep and the bicep. But since we can't really see the bicep, the carpi is basically just going to be shown as this little bump that goes up and then down, right? And this other muscle is going to come over here like this. And if you'll notice, there's a lot of like similarities. Like if you guys remember when I was talking about legs and how to draw muscles in the legs and realizing the flow that's happening within them, you guys will notice that there's a lot of like balance of shapes that happen within the human body. And what I mean by that is, if you notice how, look at this muscle where it appears here, right? It starts curving and going down like this, right? Whereas this muscle starts to curve and go down here, right? Look at the starting points. They're different, right? It's not like here's the shoulder, right? And then here's the tricep, that here, and then the forearm just does this thing, right? It's not like that. It's not like perfectly symmetrical. There's like a balance and like a flow that's happening with all these muscles. And I think that's what I'm really trying to get across mostly in this. It's just like how do you figure out what the flow of the muscles is? That is what we are here to figure out. And that is what we will discover today before the daily is through. So, again, let's see. So we're doing it from the back, so that means that there is that other bone right here, the other side of your elbow there, sticking out. And remember, we said that your elbow connects to the outside of your wrist. So we know that this bone is going to go like this, and that is what is going to separate our muscles. So the carpi is going around like this, right? Think of it as that muscle wrapping around the candy cane pulp. You got the flexors coming out underneath here. Like that, right? Then on this side, we have basically the tendons that wrap around the wrist right there, the blue-footed boobies wristband. There you go. That would be actually a pretty cool wristband. I love blue-footed boobies. I need to make that. And you see, the other muscle comes up like that. And then similarly, I mean, if you compare this to this over here, you can see basically there's always this division of the muscles. Basically, whether the division is where the bicep is entering into the forearm, or whether the elbow bone connecting to the wrist over here is separating the muscles like that. But I think the most important thing to remember is just this flow that's happening within here. It flows like this and wraps around, creates that bump there, and the flexors follow afterwards, as well as keep in mind how this balance is happening. Like, look, like it's almost like it's pointing this way, and this is pointing this way. That's kind of the way I like to think about it. It's kind of hard to put into words or exactly what's going through my head, but that's the way I think about it. It's like, think about it like balancing that way as opposed to balancing straight out that way. You know, like straight across. It's more like a diagonal. No, there's just something about that that's very, very exciting and adds action and strength to your characters. It's actually pretty good. I really like that sketch. Proud of that one. Proud of that one! Whoops. Alright. So, moving on. Whoops. Whoops again. I think I have one more thing that I wanted to do. Oh yes! The forearm in perspective. We'll finish up with this final arm. And then we will conclude episode 53 of the KNKL show, and I will go about my usual Saturday business. By the way, I do want to update you guys. I want to update you guys that the Emma comic is actually going to be going underway pretty soon. It's pretty much a set in stone thing. I cannot wait to actually start illustrating this and letting you guys see it. I'm just doing some research as to how I'm actually going to be releasing it and how everybody's going to be taking a look at it for free, because that's right, I'm going to release this comic for free, and it is going to be there for your viewing pleasure. And I've got some really cool ideas of how you guys could contribute, donate if you wish, and I will have some awesome things planned to get back to you if you choose to do so. But that is all for a later time and a later date. But just to let you guys know, it is coming, so be ready. So let's start off with this forearm coming in perspective with our eggs. We got 1, 2, 3. So yes, this is going to be the front one coming toward us. We got the bicep coming up like this, right? And remember, basically kind of what I was talking about in the drawing the forearm perspective. Think of the bicep and tricep as this oval shape, and then the forearm as a bisecting or like a fitting in oval shape. Man, that was so hard to put into words. A Lego piece oval shape. Okay, so let's start drawing in these muscles. So we've got the bicep here, right? We've got the tricep coming back here. You've got the elbow, which is going to be right here, which emerges from the triceps. Like that. Let's draw in the basic shape of what we want our forearm to look like. Looks pretty good. Okay, so emerging from between the bicep and tricep is our Carpi muscle. That wraps around the candy cane. Remember that. Always remember that. That's the most important one to remember. Then going forward, remember we got the elbow, right? Think about how you want your hand to look. Hand's probably going to be doing one of one of these things. Yeah? Just drawing the fingers really quick. That's just a quick hand. So the hand looks like that, right? So the other bone is going to be right there because you know it's on the edge of the wrist. And we know that that is going to connect back to the shoulder. All right, and from there, the flexors underneath the carpi will come around KNKL.
Are we experiencing some lag? I believe we are. There it goes.
All right, so we got those muscles coming out like that. Then on the other side, we will see the other muscle coming down like that, right? And that looks pretty good. I'm digging on that. Digging on that very much. So, just one more refresher really quickly. Let's review. So we've got the eggs that hook up to our bicep and our tricep, right? The other one's kind of like back here. Emerging from the tricep is going to be the elbow joint, right? Like that. Emerging from between the tricep and the bicep is the carpi. Bring it down like that. The flexors kind of lie beneath it and just kind of go down the wrist like this. From the elbow to the edge of the wrist. Keep in mind that bone is connected. And then that separates the other muscle underneath it. Woo! Man, I hope that really explains a lot. Drawing forearms is tough business. Very, very tough business. Ugh! And again, when you're drawing muscles, or when you're drawing superhero comics and muscly dudes, keep in mind you don't have to draw all of this. You know, like, obviously you wouldn't draw an arm like that because that would look weird unless you're drawing Lord Zed from Power Rangers. All you got to do is really just suggest things, right? And that's pretty much like the most important thing I could tell you. And the way you suggest things, here, let me actually follow up with this final little tidbit of information of how you actually translate this to a comic. So once you understand the form that's beneath it, let's go ahead and make this big time, since this is a final boss. Once you have all that detail in there, all you have to do is really just draw in the silhouette, right? Drawing your silhouette like this, right? And then just keep in mind that all you got to do is just suggest. All you got to do is just suggest very, very subtly, you know, where the muscles are working together, right? For your superhero. Think about like the pinch points. Remember when I was talking about folds? Think about where the muscles meet and always show a little bit of like overlap, because basically your mind will read this line and say, okay, that's in front of that. This line, it's in front of that. This line, it's in front of that, right? And you could have like little subtle like indentations, like showing that that carpi is really popping out, looks really cool. Then also you want to kind of highlight this bone going back there, but you don't want to draw a line straight all the way back because that'll look really kind of weird. So just draw a little thing there, a little thing there, right? You can kind of play around, like instead of making that a straight line, you can add a little bit of like extra grittiness to it. Make it look kind of scary looking. Make it look gritty and crazy. And always remember, balance out those muscles. Remember, if you got this thing going this way, like that, you want this one to be going this way. Balance that thing and make it look really cool. Coming on down like this. I'll just draw on the silhouette of the hand because hands are very, very tough. In fact, I owe you guys another really good tutorial on hands because my first one was alright, but I think I could do a better one nowadays. Yeah, this is just for this is just for show. So let's see here. I put in a little thing there. There we go. There we go. There you go. Not bad. Okay. Let's go back here. Let's put a little bit of like indentation there and there. And as we go up to the muscles, the shoulder muscles, just put in a little bit of suggestion that that muscle is there, and there, and there, and then as we know, this will connect to the chest and the neck, and all that good stuff, right? So again, and now let's look at what happens when we take away the lines. See? So now, as you can see, this arm is very muscly, cool looking. The muscles are all in the right places for the most part. At least they look okay. And you're not drawing every single muscle. And that's why I said it's important to realize like where that carpi lies, because that's probably the most important muscle and the one that you'll see most often when you're drawing comics. But it's also really cool to be able to show that you know what's happening with the interaction of the elbow and this joint, which is, I think, something that I personally struggle with and something that I wanted to kind of study and add into my toolbox today. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode today. I apologize for my terrible speaking with the terms of the muscles, but I hope that you guys got it and had some fun with me today. So thank you once again for tuning in to episode 53 of the KNKL Show. Remember, the Emma comic is coming, so you guys better ready your butts for that, and we're going to have a great time. So we are all done. Thumbs up if you like it. Thumbs down if you don't. I'm KIenan Lafferty, and I will see you guys next week.